All right, welcome in, and we are now sitting here after a 33-10 Broncos W. It feels absolutely great, and here we've got some main talking points tonight, and this is going to be a 5-part video where I just basically recap the Broncos' performance, but overall, 33-10, it feels great. It feels good anytime on Thursday Night Football where you have a short week to prepare. It can be a little funky. Sometimes offenses have a really big tendency to look out of sync just because of how minimal preparation there is. And when you get a team that's as undermanned as the New Orleans Saints have been, it could have been a big trap game because I have it as one of my talking points tonight that past Broncos teams have lost in scenarios like tonight. You think back to the 2017 season where we were on Sunday Night Football. I think it was around this time of year too. And the Giants came in with Eli Manning and literally nothing else. Like everybody else was out. I believe Sterling Shepard was out. I believe, I don't know if Slayton wasn't in the league yet, but Odell Beckham Jr. was out. And it was absolutely humiliating to lose 23-3 on our home turf the way we did, especially considering how bad the Giants were that year. And then you think back to 2021 when the Broncos lost to Cleveland and allowed Dearness Johnson to run for like 250 yards or whatever it was. Past Broncos teams have lost in scenarios like tonight. And you can make the argument that the Saints are in huge free fall mode. And listen, I won't disagree with you. But one of the big things about this Broncos team is that they can take advantage of the teams being in free fall mode. You know, the Raiders and Saints, those are two teams this year that, yeah, okay, you could say that was kind of handed to us on a silver platter, but past Broncos teams do not win. And for what's gone on in our organization for the past, 6, 7 years before we got to this season, I'm just really happy at the circumstances surrounding tonight's game because, man, this could have been the trappiest of all trap games, especially with no Carr, no Shaheed, no Olave, no Taysom Hill. The team could have used that as fuel. They could have been like, okay, we don't have to prepare as hard. We don't have to play as hard. But they didn't. They came out swinging. And I just want to say this. Shout out to our strength and conditioning staff because it wasn't that long ago. It was only 2 seasons ago where the Broncos injury report looked like what the Saints does right now, where you're missing literally every starter on the offensive side of the ball. So I don't remember exactly who our strength and conditioning coach is, but heck of a job. You can notice that there is a difference in the way the Broncos have done things. I think they actually hired him from the Saints, if I'm not mistaken. So there you go. There you go. That's I mean, maybe some of those effects are being shown. Some of those effects may have been shown on the field tonight, but ultimately, I do hope the New Orleans Saints get healthier because the NFL is a better product when teams have their full 53. So prayers up Carr, prayers up Olave, prayers up Shaheed. But yeah, let's get into some of the talking points for our team. So offensive talking points. Okay, the slow start for Bo Nix continued. He has to make that throw on the first drive. If you're an NFL quarterback, you have to make that throw. I'm not going to dispute that. But he got settled, and he ultimately did what he was supposed to for the rest of the game. Did he do anything that was extremely crazy? Did he do anything that shows us, what he is or what he is not? Did he raise his floor or his ceiling at all? And I'm going to go with no. He just did what he needed to do. This kind of felt like the Kendall Hinton game reversed from 4 years ago, where Taysom Hill was the starting quarterback for the Saints, and the Saints had an ultra conservative game plan. I don't remember if they even threw the ball 5 times that game. But ultimately, he just did what he was supposed to for the rest of the game. What I will say, I love the fact that they're using Bo Nix on those quarterback design runs because it is going to be great tape to keep defenses honest. So yeah, and Sean Payton, he called a phenomenal game. There were dudes open all night long. The run game finally looked like something that we've missed here in Broncos country. I believe they also had their most rushing yards since 2013, if I'm not mistaken. So that's really great. I think we also shattered our team record for most first downs this year. So yeah, really good job by the offense. Just in general, once again, you can make the claim that Nick's the year is more about his development than the record. And yes, I will agree with that. That the overarching picture is not how we finished the year, because I know this team isn't going to win the Super Bowl, but it's about those strides, and it's about how our young quarterback looks. Regardless, there was nothing tonight that really moved or pinned the needle. I actually think that mini bye is going to be great, just to get everybody, the chance to get settled. And maybe Bo Nix, maybe he comes into games too rattled. Maybe he comes in a little flustered, a little frustrated, and then. So my idea to fix that, if I'm Sean Payton, is next time I win the toss, I receive, but I don't tell Bo Nix that I'm going to receive. I just say, all right, we're going to defer, and then you shock him by choosing to receive, and you're just like, you're up, kid. But yeah, Sean Payton was in his bag tonight. You knew that being a hyper competitive dude, that he was going to want to come back to New Orleans, and that he wasn't going to want to run them out of their own building. But that's ultimately what happened, because he didn't leave the Saints organization on bad terms. He didn't get fired. Granted, I won't dispute the fact that he didn't stay around for the long haul and the downward spiral, but oh well. Now, this is what was awesome tonight. The Broncos offensive line dominated, and not only that, but old Javonte looks to be back. We've seen it in spurts this year. Last year, we did not see old Javonte at all. We saw under 4 yards per carry in the box score constantly. And granted, I'm not really a box score watcher, but RB is kind of one of those positions where you don't really need to watch the actual games to have context to see how a guy performed. Granted, there are a lot of circumstances surrounding the running back position and whether they play well or not, but old Javonte is back. How many times tonight did we see him break tackles, just lay into dudes, and just look like 2021 Javonte, the one we thought we were getting before he had that horrific knee injury, the one we thought we were getting? How many times did we see that tonight? How many times did we see him just completely obliterate a defender and have 2 wide open touchdowns? Remember, week 1 against Seattle, on, I believe, our second offensive play of the game, it was second and really, really short. But he probably has a walk-in touchdown if he does not slip there. And what does he do? He redeems himself tonight with 2 touchdowns in the red zone. So, yeah, but Troy Franklin and Devon Villay becoming revelations could be massive for the offensive side of the ball, especially because Sutton did not have a catch tonight. But the fact that the offense moved the ball as well as it did, and Sutton did not have a catch tonight, I mean, on one hand, is it a little concerning? Maybe. But ultimately, it really wasn't a favorable game plan for us to just keep chucking the rock over and over again. But even more importantly, the development of Troy Franklin and Devon Villay, that's just going to be really good for the offense if that can continue, because obviously Bo Nix and Troy Franklin have had that chemistry for the past 2 seasons, even before both becoming members of the Denver Broncos. So it's nice to see that continue in the NFL. And when you have, I talked about this in a video not too long ago on my channel, when you have a thin skill position group and a thin roster like the Denver Broncos have, you need some guys to take steps forward. And honestly, that's what we're seeing in real time with Troy Franklin and Devon Villay. So defensive talking points. No Surtain, no problem. Granted, we might be having a different discussion if we're playing against Chris Olave or Rashid Shaheed or even Taysom Hill. But again, they just took care of business, and that's all I really care about tonight. Riley Moss had some great PBUs. Jaquan McMillan was everywhere in the run game. He did a great job bouncing back just based off how poorly he performed last week. And the run defense, they were electric after spotty performances versus the Raiders and the Chargers. I think, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure Alvin Kamara finished the game with 10 rushes for 7 yards. I think that was the last I saw. So that's just absolutely unbelievable that we were able to make something like that happen. And again, one thing I really, really want to mention is that they had some bounce back performances. Obviously, they kind of got gashed against the Raiders, at least in the first half. Then they tuned it up. But J.K. Dobbins was and Kamani Vidal kind of had their way with the Broncos this past week. They didn't get a lot of big plays, but when they did, oh man, were they massive. And the one thing I want to say is, where has this Cody Barton been? Because last week, he was getting cooked by Kamani Vidal on a wheel route, and Kamani Vidal's first career snap. Now, oh my goodness, you talk about a guy who performed in the biggest way possible that he could have on Thursday Night Football. Cody Barton, he would have had 2 defensive touchdowns if not for DJ Jones jumping offside over center, by the way, which shows you how ludicrous that really is. But regardless, this Cody Barton, where has he been? Like, I've been waiting to see something like this ever since Singleton went down. Obviously, Singleton was the heart and soul of our defense. Like, communication-wise, he wasn't the most talented player. He really wasn't all that, like, I don't know, game-changing. He's serviceable, and ultimately that's what we've gotten at the inside linebacker position over the past few years. We've gotten serviceable production. We've gotten guys who might struggle a little bit here and there in coverage, but usually Surtain and Simmons made up for it on the back end. And tonight we saw a guy who was a difference maker, a guy who, I believe, did he force one of those fumbles? No, he didn't. But the edge rushers, they also did a great job tonight. Bonito could have had 3 sacks. And say what you want about Spencer Rattler's performance, he did not play a good game of football. But he did make some pretty nasty plays where he completely evaded Bonito. It kind of looked like some Bo Nix out there. Kind of looked like Bo Nix ducking and dodging against that Chargers edge rusher last week. And they did their one big assignment, which was contain Alvin Kamara. If there was one guy who probably could have had the propensity to take over this game and potentially put the Broncos in trouble, it was Alvin Kamara. But honestly, the Saints' run game didn't even really get going at all. Quite frankly, it didn't get going until like the past 3 or 4 minutes of the game, where we were just getting Kendre Miller over and over again in garbage time with Jake Haener once Rattler got hurt. So yeah, here are the game balls I have to give out. So obviously, I'm going to start with defense first, even though it's second on the note here. Cody Barton, just unreal performance. I don't really know what else to say. But offense, Mike McGlinchey. And the reason this was so big was because you saw what the offensive line looked like with McGlinchey and without McGlinchey. And honestly, throughout some points of this year, after McGlinchey went down, I was like, okay, this isn't really that much of a difference from when we went to Palczewski, or however you pronounce his name, at the right tackle spot. But it looked like a completely different unit tonight. And honestly, nothing changed other than the fact that you had Mike McGlinchey there and you did not have him over the past few games. So really, really big shout out to Mike McGlinchey, especially because he's dealt with a lot. He's dealt with a lot since he came to Denver. You know, a lot of people like myself have been saying that he has not played up to the contract that was given out to him by the front office. And is it on him for not playing up to it, or is it on the organization for dishing it out to begin with? I don't know. That's a discussion for another day. But I'm really, really proud of what Mike McGlinchey did tonight. I'm really happy with the work the entire offensive line did. Granted, the Saints do have some injuries on their front seven. But regardless, once again, theme of this video, you're taking care of business, and Sean Payton raises the floor of this team. So yeah, special teams player, Will Lutz, because honestly, I wasn't sure that he was going to be able to make that 52-yard field goal, because he has never, I think he actually made a 51-yarder within recent weeks or games. So I think he actually did make a 50-yarder not too long ago, but we hadn't seen him make a 50-yarder with the Broncos or longer since he became part of the team. Now, granted, he was perfect on field goals under 50 yards, but tonight he did really well, and he was a big part of why we were able to continue to put the pressure on the Saints, because honestly, the Saints, they were playing a game of catch-up from the start. As soon as we got 3 points on the opening drive, the second drive, because we punted the first drive, it was just nice to see Lutz take care of business and nail a 52-yarder, and the fact that he was getting booed made it even funnier. So yeah, part 5, coaching. I'm very, very happy with the staff so far this year. If there is any neutral observer that still wants to tell you that Sean Payton is overrated, just get that out of your head, because this was supposed to be a rebuilding year, and you've gotten huge W's. You got one against the 2 that really mattered more than the ones against the Raiders and the Saints. The 2 that mattered really more were the Jets and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And obviously that happened a few weeks ago, almost a month ago at this point. But this was supposed to be a rebuilding year, and you've gotten wins against the Buccaneers and the Jets. And, this could be the tipping point it was one of the tipping points for Robert Saleh. Granted, they fired him the day after their loss to Minnesota, but they played Denver the week before, and this could be the nail in the the coffin for Dennis Allen as the head coach of the New Orleans Saints. Now, we also got someone fired not that long ago. I can't remember who else it was, but yeah, overall, I just thought that was a pretty interesting wrinkle. Now, I love the creativity tonight. I love the chances to get the young wide receivers involved. You know, we saw Marvin Mims in the backfield, and you saw Marvin Mims take a check down from 3rd and 10, and he converted it to a first down. Now, granted, the very next play, he did drop one of the easiest passes that Marvin Mims is ever going to see in his career. But ultimately, what you saw tonight was the Broncos usurping the Saints. Like, the Saints, I was very convinced that this team was going to have a really, really rough year. You know, when it was like July, August, and everybody was making their predictions, I thought it was going to be a really, really tough year for the New Orleans Saints. But ultimately, things got better, or things got worse, way worse for them after the first 2 weeks, because they scored 47 and then 42, and then they've just been in complete freefall mode since. But I don't even think it's a question as to if the Broncos are on the right track at all. And that just feels so good to say, because in Broncos country, we delude ourselves into things. We get retreads. We get, you know, we talk ourselves into these, I don't know, just weird hires. We talk ourselves into these, you know, additions that may or may not work out. But ultimately, the Broncos, they look like a competent organization, and they look like a competent organization again. And it is still a big deal to win this game regardless of circumstance. You had 53 guys against 53 guys, and we put up 33 points, and they put up 10. So ultimately, it still was a big deal to win this game because, like I've been saying, past Broncos teams, I don't know if they're up for the challenge. I don't know if they're up for it. I think Alvin Kamara, if he's playing against our 2021 defense, and Dearness Johnson put up like 200 yards on us, I would be shocked to see what he could do against, you know, just in general. I don't really know where I was going with that train of thought, honestly, but either way, I was talking about Alvin Kamara playing against our 2021 defense. That's where I was heading with that. But yes, big deal to win this game regardless of circumstance, and this is why you get Sean Payton, to take care of the stuff that you need to take care of. You don't have Vance Joseph, you don't have Nathaniel Hackett, you don't have any of that anymore. You don't have Vic Fangio having this team woefully unprepared. I just never have to worry about us getting out-coached anymore in the head coaching department. Now, you can make the argument for Sean Payton, you know, play calling, whatever, but he was in his bag tonight. And just as an ultra-competitive dude, you knew that he was going to want to come to New Orleans and just scheme very, very well. That's a very underrated advantage I think the Broncos have this year, is that Sean Payton absolutely hates the rest of the NFC South. I don't think he holds any ill will towards New Orleans, but Tampa Bay, Atlanta, and Carolina, you play both of them this year. And obviously, Sean Payton's going to want to win because he is an ultimate competitor. And a lot of these, you know, coaches, even though they change teams, they do not lose hatred. And especially a guy as competitive as Sean Payton. So, yeah, those are my thoughts on the Broncos win against the New Orleans Saints. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.